Hello and welcome back to Tranquility du Jour, nourishing conversations about living a full and meaningful life with doses of tranquility. This is episode 560. I'm your host, Kimberly Wilson, bringing you tranquility through this medium since 2005. Now, today we are talking with Jojo Newman, who is the founder of Ballet With Jojo, Adult Ballet Collective, and Adult Ballet Club. So in this episode, we discuss benefits of ballet, living the ballet lifestyle, tips for getting onto pointe, and her beautiful social feeds and how she does it. It's oh so pink. It's very, very pretty. I'll put a little sampling of it in the show notes, which can be found at kimberlywilson.com/560. Also, a gentle reminder to please hit subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode of Tranquility du Jour. And also visit kimberlywilson.com/podcast for more information on the podcast and how to leave a review. My hope is that it helps other people find more tranquility in their life. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Also, if you're new to Tranquility du Jour, a big, big welcome, and you can learn more about it in the show notes. Also, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who joined the TDJ Live Masterclass last week. It was so fun to be with you and to share kind of my takeaways and tips and tools and things that I observed while I was in Paris early September. Also, yesterday afternoon, actually, I posted, I think there's like 17 photos, and they're photos that, I just kind of captured throughout my trip. My friend Sarah, who was with me, took some photos of the ones that are just me. Anyway, I wanted to make sure that everybody saw those because I think it just gives a really great peek into kind of the Parisian experience and really, many of the highlights. And again, so I'll have a link in the show notes to that for anyone who would like to see it. And in the TDJ Live Masterclass, I talked all about kind of what those takeaways were. And there's a link in the show notes to the replay. Reminder, the live event is free. The replay is $10 for video download. Also, make sure you're out marching on October 2nd if you are interested in defending women's reproductive rights. Would love to see you, those of you in the DC area. And I think there's over 500 or 600 happening across the country. So check out Women's March to be able to find if there's one in your area. Also, the fall virtual retreat is happening on October 16th. It's the last one of 2021. And we'll be really looking at, the year so far. We're 3/4 through, which is craziness. We have 1 quarter to go. What has 2021 looked like and felt like for us? And what do we want for this last quarter as we kind of peek into 2022? So we'll also be doing, of course, some gentle yoga, some mindfulness meditation, and some creative play through the practice and process of art journaling. So you can find out more at kimberlywilson.com/virtual retreat. Also, the last thing I want to mention is the TDJ Passholder Collective. You can join the waitlist. I'll be sharing more about this in November. And this is the ability to get a peek into all of the offerings that I do in a year. And so rather than kind of dropping in a la carte, you get a lot of private events, and then also you get access to all, including some really cute sparkly snail mail. And I brought a bunch of postcards with me. I'm currently away at this really cute beach town in Virginia called Cape Charles, so working remotely. And I brought all these postcards, these Halloween postcards that have sparkles on them. And so I will be getting those out in the mail to my Passholder Collective. So one of the perks is sending snail mail and then lots of bonus events. All right. So that's it for an announcement piece. And without further ado, let's chat with Jojo. So she's the founder of Ballet With Jojo, Adult Ballet Collective, and Adult Ballet Club. Since starting ballet as an adult, Jojo has integrated ballet into her adult lifestyle and shares her journey through social media. Have I mentioned how beautiful her social media is? As an adult ballerina herself, she brings a unique perspective into her coaching services and has coined the term Adult Ballet Fairy Godmother. Jojo is dedicated to providing events and opportunities to the growing adult ballet community, here, and is continually seeking further education in order to continue to grow on her own journey. Jojo embodies and embraces the adult ballet lifestyle and truly believes that ballet is for everyone that chooses to do it, which I just love. Also, one thing that's really great about Jojo is she offers these wonderful kind of 3-hour intensives. And so I did one shortly after I got back from Paris on sleep. That was Sleeping Beauty, from Sleeping Beauty, and it was the Lilac Fairy. It was so hard. And then at one point she records it, just for us. And of course I forget to starting 8 counts. I was like, oh my gosh, just completely blanked. That is my ongoing struggle, and was even as a child when I did ballet. But what's really fun is I liked the music so much. And, there's many variations of the Lilac Fairy. I will be doing a very beginner level, but in June, I'll be performing it on stage at this adult ballet, event that's happening in Miami. So I'm so excited and I'm ready to get started kind of practicing my variation. And she inspired me. And then coming up next weekend, in the next few weekends, I can't remember, but I signed up to do a theme from Romeo and Juliet ballet. And again, they're just really fun 3-hour intensives where we do a lot of stretching, kind of warm up, and then we learn, a minute and a half of a ballet. So she's doing really beautiful things in the ballet community. Welcome, Jojo.
So lovely to be here and to speak to you.
I'm delighted to have you. And I have to tell you, I don't even know how I found you, probably on Instagram. And so I've maybe been following you for 6 months and I just love your stuff. So I'm curious, can you share a bit about your ballet journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about my ballet journey. And I guess that's probably why I started my Instagram, to really kind of just share all the details. But it's interesting because I used to always just say I started ballet as an adult and sort of my ballet journey started then. But more recently, I've come to mind that I've been wanting to do ballet for basically all my life. So I actually feel like my ballet journey started when I was really young, even though I wasn't taking any classes. But it was just that longing and wanting to do it. Unfortunately, ballet wasn't on the cards for me as a child. And then in high school, when I got my first job, I started paying for my own dance classes. Unfortunately, ballet wasn't offered. It was just a local studio across the road from where I lived. I also started taking, dance classes in high school as well. I suppose they weren't really that technical or anything. It was more so people just wanting to have an easy subject at school. But I guess that's sort of my dance experience before coming to ballet. But then actually in university, I started doing competitive cheerleading, which taught me a lot about my body. So I built a lot of body awareness. I gained a lot of flexibility during that time, made really great friends. But there was still a ballet-shaped hole in my life. And through cheerleading, I got quite a few injuries as well. So once I finished university, I stopped doing that and sort of just took a few years off. And I think I just did, the usual gym stuff, Pilates, yoga, all of that. And then that brings me to the start of my actual ballet journey, I guess, logistically. So I like to talk about my experiences with physical activity before, because I feel like everything that you do, all the experiences that you bring into your ballet journey is what makes your journey so special and so unique as well. So I built up body awareness, flexibility, but also injuries from my past, and took that all with me into my journey now. And, it's allowed me to learn to work with what I have. One of my injuries was I dislocated my right hip and cheer. I know yeah, it wasn't fun. Um, but that because that's happened to me, I don't have great turnout on my right leg. My left leg's much better, which is really interesting because I'm very right dominant. So yeah, it's just one of those things I'm learning to work with. And um, starting my ballet journey really changed my life because I was working in marketing 9 to 5, and yeah, I know, working in marketing 9 to 5 during my first year of my ballet journey. But then we decided to move from the city to a more well, coastal beach town where we are now. And that's when I decided that working 9 to 5 wasn't really for me at that stage, I suppose. And so when we moved to a new place, I actually got a job at my local dance studio, helping out with administration and assistant teaching. And that was a lot of fun because it allowed me to explore more about dance. And then, one thing led to another, the pandemic and all of that. I ended up doing my bar body teacher training course, which has contributed heaps to my ballet journey and allows me to have the confidence to help other adult ballet dancers now in terms of coaching because I approach coaching with a more, I guess, an empathetic perspective because I know what it's like to not have that perfect ballet body. And I really learn how to, I guess, retrofit technique on an adult body. Um, and I also personally feel that there are a lot of adult ballet dancers out there that are too scared to walk into the studio. And it is heartbreaking that it's because it's absolutely scary. Starting something as an adult is terrifying because when we're grown-ups, we are so used to being good at things. We're so used to people expecting us to be good at things. So starting something from scratch is terrifying. And so, I thought that I love connecting with the community already, and I was doing it on Instagram, and I get a lot of questions just from random people, but it's been awesome connecting with them. I get a lot of questions, and I thought, you know what, like, why don't I actually start this coaching thing and I can actually help people in real life? In a way, it's all online, but it still allows me to have this connection, allows me to meet with people, and it's been the most rewarding thing ever because it's so special to meet so many adult dancers and to actually be a part of their journeys as well. So I guess that kind of sums up to where I am currently.
Yeah, what an exciting journey though. I love it because so often we meet people who are like, "Yes, I've been balleting." Well, it's not a verb, but I've been dancing since I was 4. And so
Mhm.
to have started your journey at 23, I think listeners or people curious about starting at 53, might be inspired. And I agree, it is intimidating, right? You walk into this big room, brightly lit with fluorescent lighting, and the mirrors, a wall of mirrors, right? It's like so intimidating.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not just people who have started ballet as an adult from scratch. It's a lot of dancers that have come back to ballet in their adult bodies. So they have to kind of relearn everything they've already learned. And it's funny that you brought up the mirrors because, you kind of expect you in your head what you look like, but then you look in the mirror and it doesn't quite correspond a lot of the time. So that's just, another aspect of the ballet journey that you have to kind of deal with and learn to work around.
It's
Not be
so
so hard on yourself.
Totally. And it's so funny you say that, Jojo, because last month I was up in New York City and I took a private with the teacher that I've been studying with during the pandemic, who I'd never met in person, only virtual. So anyway, we meet in a studio and I'm in front of mirrors for the first time in a year and a half. And as I was doing stuff, I'm like, oh, that is not how I thought I looked. And so it's really
Yeah.
interesting. Mirrors are helpful, but, it's also like jarring if you have been practicing online, for a while and you haven't been in
Hmm.
front of a mirror, that little bitty Zoom square just does not tell it all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I think it's one of those things you just have to learn. Yeah, you just have to learn to work around and yeah, not be so harsh on yourself because we're all unique. Our bodies are all unique, and I think while obviously I do stress, correct ballet technique because that prevents injuries, especially in adults. You do not want to get injured. It's not fun. Um, but I truly believe that, ballet really comes from the soul. and it's all about enjoying the movement, and putting that movement and the artistry all together, and that's when sort of magic happens.
So, one of the things you talk about in your bio, which I love, is living the ballet lifestyle, which I love. So, tell us, what is your interpretation or definition of the ballet lifestyle?
Well, yeah, it's a really good question. It's actually funny how that kind of came about. I was actually talking to Georgia Canning, who also has a podcast, the Balanced Ballerinas podcast, and we were having a chat, and we were talking about how because we do have an adult ballet beginners course coming up as well. But we were talking about how when you start ballet as an adult, you get bitten by this ballet bug and you kind of want more. And you have the resources to have more because you're financially supporting yourself, and you can buy your own dance wear, you can sign up for your own classes, like everything is up to you. But many people don't take ballet seriously as an adult because it's like you're not going to make a career out of it. Why do you bother, kind of thing. And we were just saying, like, yeah, ballet, it's not an interest, it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle when you've been bitten by this bug. And it's because you start incorporating ballet into your life in a way that you didn't realize. Like when I'm doing my dishes, I'm doing calf rises. when I'm watching TV, a lot of the time I have a TheraBand there and I'm just pointing and flexing, you're incorporating all of this stuff into your life. And it's not like you're probably obsessed with it, but it's more so that ballet makes your life better. So why not incorporate and do it more? It doesn't, and sorry, it doesn't, for me as an adult ballet dancer, I always thought that the best way for my journey to progress was to not just do ballet classes, because that simply wasn't enough for me. I had to do privates, and I had to do strength classes, and I had to also do flexibility stuff. And that all adds in to your lifestyle. And I guess now, I really have made ballet my lifestyle with all my coaching, and I do everything from home. So I kind of have this special place in I have a very small home, so it's in my kitchen, dining, and laundry room, all in one. And I have brought ballet into my home, and that's where I do it. So it's a huge part of my lifestyle. My bar is always out in the kitchen, much to my husband's dismay. But it's always there for me, and it's nice because I have a safe place to be dancing in my own home. And that's why I think ballet really is a lifestyle, because yeah, you can take as many classes as you want, but start bringing it home to yourself, and that's when you'll really feel you'll feel the journey and the progression.
Well, one of the things too, kind of aligned with that, is whenever I hear lifestyle, I also think of the many benefits, right, of ballet and how
Mm-hmm.
that kind of seeps into your everyday. One of the things I hear from people is like, oh, I stand taller, right? Or I have more confidence, or I'm more connected to my body. So can you share what are some of the benefits that you found of adult ballerinas? And I will
Mm-hmm.
say, learning new things as an adult, as you said, is very challenging. And, even the choreography and the bar, it's like trying to
Mm-hmm.
remember it, after it's demonstrated. I don't know that I can do it on my own. I have to like have little hints. And
Yeah,
so to develop that, it's like a mental puzzle. So I'm just
yeah.
curious, like, what are some of the benefits that you personally have seen and that you
Mm-hmm.
see in your clients?
Oh, that's a great question. That's such a great question because you're absolutely right. It leads into ballet being a lifestyle, and you feel all these benefits from starting ballet as an adult. Firstly, yeah, I want to talk about my experience because when I started ballet as an adult, it was something that I wanted to do all my life. But I finished university, went into my 9 to 5, and I always thought I was done with learning. I wasn't very studious. I wasn't that into it. I got my degree and I got out, kind of thing. You spent 12 years of your life in school and then another 3 years in university or whatever you're doing. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. No more. And the interesting thing is, though, starting ballet as an adult has made me want to learn more. And I think that has been the most beneficial thing because if I hadn't started ballet as an adult, I wouldn't have well, I wouldn't have been interested in doing things like my bar body teacher training course, which has given me so much knowledge on the anatomy and exercise. And I've even got some more courses booked in to skill up as well with the like progressive ballet technique. I'm doing that course later on. So I didn't think I would want to learn anymore, but starting ballet as an adult has made me want to learn more, not just about ballet, but just about everything in general. So I think I'm a much more interested person in life now, which is it's a funny thing to say because it's not like I wasn't interested before, but I feel like I'm much more engaged in every aspect of my life. And it's interesting that you also mentioned memory and remembering the exercises because that is a really huge thing I see, and it's something that I've seen a lot of adults develop as we're working together, and not just with me, but just in every aspect. So I think ballet is just so beneficial for the brain because you're using your brain way more, and you're also put on the spot. You know, your teacher, depending on who your teacher is, they might just demonstrate something very quickly, or they might just say, okay, we're going to do three tendus and a plies, do it front side, back side, and then do this and that. So they might not even teach it properly, so as in teach it slowly. So you really have to learn on the spot, and I think that is so great for adults because it keeps your brain moving, and also the connection between your brain and your body is just incredible. Like it's all about sending messages from your brain to your feet or your brain to your hands to whatever you're doing. And establishing these pathways and these connections have been so good as an adult. The coordination that you learn from ballet is phenomenal. And it's one thing as well that I've learned, because I also take classes at, well, not currently at my studio because we're on lockdown, but one thing that my ballet teacher has said is that because she teaches adults of all different ages and she teaches like jazz and contemporary as well, and we've got some sort of older women in their 60s coming to these classes, and one of them said that she is much more able than her friends because she does dance. Now, and this is because when we're in dance class, my teacher is making us balance, making us do things that make us feel uncomfortable that you don't normally do in everyday life. But by balancing and by putting your body in an uncomfortable position, your body's learning how to cope with that. And so, you know, this particular lady was saying that, you know, if she was to trip up on the street for any reason or slip somewhere, her body is able to maneuver itself to balance properly. And so she doesn't hurt herself as much. And I think that's a really huge benefit for anyone of any age, really, though, because if you build that body awareness, then you know what you're doing with yourself, basically. So I think that's a huge benefit. And obviously, aside everything aside, with ballet makes you feel good. Dancing makes you feel good. You know, it's releasing the right endorphins. You know, you're physically moving and you're straining yourself physically and mentally. But coming out of a ballet class, most people feel great. And that's why they're addicted to it because they keep coming back. They want that feeling because it's not just a physical exercise. Like I do enjoy going to the gym. I love doing circuit training classes because you come out, you feel great. But ballet is a different kind of feeling because it's not just exercise. You've danced to music and you've used your artistry. And I think that's really special because that's unique to everyone as well. So we kind of, I feel like ballet in a way is more like, you know, something like yoga or something because you have shared the energy with all the dancers in the class. And I think that's really beneficial because you come out of it and you feel amazing.
Absolutely. Um, and I think one of the pieces that you commented on of just like your ability to get comfortable in uncomfortable situations, it's like I say an attitude and releve. You're just like, okay, that is not, something you're doing every day. And so it's helpful to be like, and then try to find your balance. And yeah, it's so beautiful. And the music is Such a treat, especially when we have
Mhm.
live pianists.
Oh, absolutely. That is so spoiled when you have a live pianist. It's such an amazing feeling to be dancing along to someone who is playing music there in person. Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful. Now, in an upcoming masterclass that you're holding, you're going to share how to create your ballet brand. So,
hmm
tell us more. What do you mean by ballet brand, and how would you recommend listeners, if
hmm
they were interested in doing so, to create one?
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I started this masterclass, so this is part two. The first part was all about creating content, like taking photos, video content, all that kind of stuff. So this second part is all about basically growing your audience and your community, and also working with dancewear brands, which is just such a big question I get asked by so many people. So I thought, hey, why not make a masterclass out of this? So working and my background in marketing, I've worked for brands, but I've also worked as a full-time content creator at some parts. So I approach this with in two different ways. I approach it as someone who has worked with influencers, and I approach it as an influencer working with other brands. So I think it's pretty interesting coming to it from this perspective. But I personally feel, yeah, branding is so important, and it's something that I wanted to bring up because for anyone who hasn't had any experience in marketing, you might be like, oh, but I'm a person, I'm not a brand. But really, anything that you're posting on social media, that is part of your brand. So we're just using it as, as kind of an umbrella term of what you are. And branding, like I said, it comes from everything that you're putting out on social media. And so during the first masterclass, I talked about creating content. I talked about creating an aesthetic. And aesthetic has two meanings, and one of it is being aesthetic to the eye, obviously to be beautiful, and the other meaning of the word aesthetic is to have a particular style. So part of your brand is I feel as a ballet content creator, you will need to have an aesthetic that is aesthetic, if that makes sense. So you want to be using both of those terms. And yeah, so creating your ballet brand will really enable you to put out the right messages, to put out the message that you want to put out. I won't reveal too much because this will be in the workshop, but the first thing we always start off with in PR and marketing is all about creating a mission statement. And this is basically the underlying mission of your brand. So, for example, for me, my mission is to encourage as many people as possible to start ballet as an adult. So for me, it's all about expanding the community in whatever way I can do possible. And right now, that is by sharing my journey on social media and by offering online resources and events and things like that. So yeah, it's all about finding your values and your mission statement, and I guess that's how you really create your brand, because then you can sort of keep everything on track. You're not just posting random things all the time. While that is great as well, it just depends, because if you are looking at going down this route of becoming a content creator or a dance influencer, as that term is now used quite a bit, it's all about keeping everything on brand.
Well, in your website and social are gorgeous. Like, I love all things pink. I never
Thank you. I
outgrew
can
that.
see that.
Yeah. And so, just the aesthetic, as you say, it's gorgeous, and we want to evoke a feeling, right? When people come to our website or our social. And I think you do that so well. What would you say is your secret to that? How did you hone in on your aesthetic?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, when I was working as a content creator, it was through a different Instagram, and it was more like fashion, lifestyle, a little bit of travel when we could travel, and it was very monochrome. For a long time, well, I mean, I loved pink when I started ballet. I've always loved ballet pink, but for a long time, my style was very monochrome. It's black. Pretty much my entirety of my wardrobe is black actually at the moment. And that's just because I feel like black matches everything. And I'm very much into a minimalist sort of capsule wardrobe. The only thing I'm not a minimalist about is my dancewear. So because it's so beautiful and you end up collecting something like that, I feel some of my leotards end up to be, works of art, not just clothing. But basically, I started my aesthetic. It was more monochrome. I love doing flat lays. And actually, it's interesting because I'm not a trained photographer. I just learn everything as I go, basically. One of the jobs that I started at, they basically gave me Photoshop and they were said, oh, this is how you use it, and you can YouTube everything else, basically. So I've always been someone who sort of learned on my toes, and it's interesting, yeah, because that's the exact, well, that's how I started doing flat lays because it started with a few items. I started doing some stop motion randomly. This is way back now. But it's how I kind of built my style of putting things together. And that is something that has translated to my ballet brand now because I come with that experience. And and I'm all about working with what you have. And it's interesting how it's developed over the years. Like I am now looking at things with a more aesthetic eye because I am trained in that, but trained by myself, I guess, in a way. Um, I used to take flat lays and edit them, and then you kind of look at it, and then now I would look at it and say, "Oh God, look at this shadow here," or "Look at the yellow. This white is looking yellow at the moment," or I've got so many critiques now that I would never have noticed back then. So I would say it's all about practicing, finding something you like to do, practicing, and enjoying what you're doing as well. Because I really love throwing together flat lays, and that's sort of how my brand kind of came to be. And then obviously from there I enjoyed really taking ballet photos, and so actually all my ballet photos taken at home are taken by myself. I set my camera up and do a timer and then off it goes. My ballet photos that were taken outdoors, that's taken by my husband, who also isn't a photographer, but both of us just sort of learn on our feet. And that's why I'm a firm believer that you don't need to have heaps of equipment or invest a lot of money in order to make good content. Because as of this moment, I actually do all my photo editing on my iPhone 7, which is like 6 years old now. So, and that's the thing. Like, I think you have to learn to work with what you have. I always say that, and I say it in ballet as well, but it's applied to every part of my life that you learn to work with what you have, and then that way you can really make the most of it, and it teaches you to really learn to work on your feet as well. So yeah, I guess that's how I developed my style, but pink sort of just came hand in hand with with ballet. When I started ballet, I thought I was just starting to collect pink items, I suppose, and that's made my aesthetic very pink. And naturally, point shoes are beautiful, and they're very easy to photograph, and I think a lot of people are very attracted to them because there's something about them that's very alluring. So yeah, I guess that's how my aesthetic sort of came to be.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Listeners, definitely check out her social, and I'll be sure to have links to it in the show notes. What are your tips for adult ballerinas? Like anything that you have found to be really helpful or critical or important to kind of keep in mind as
Mhm.
you're growing or developing or, trying to become a ballerina? Because one of the things you said that I think is really interesting as a child, we practice for recital for an annual performance, right, in
Mhm.
front of our parents. But, as an adult, it's like, wah, wah, like, we don't have recitals. Although there is one that's happening in Miami next June that I'm very excited about. But,
Yes.
it's rare, and
Mhm.
so it's really one of those things that is just such a treat to be able to kind of take the stage or feel as if you're able to kind of showcase all your effort.
Mhm. Yeah, Another great question because I'm glad you brought that up actually because um, I recently said I'm not sure if it was in a past workshop, but it was basically in ballet, right? We don't, as an adult ballet dancer, we don't have the same opportunities as children. Some of us are able to perform. My own dance school does an end of year show. Not sure if we're able to do it this year because of the lockdown, but I have had that opportunity and it's been incredible. And I know a lot of people might ask, if you're not performing, why are you doing this? Like, what are you working towards? And I think it's actually more special as an adult ballet dancer who is self-driven, because we are doing it for ourselves. So we're actually performing for ourselves. And that is the best audience member that you could ever have. So it's a really personal thing. And that's one of my tips as well, because self-motivation is the strongest motivation in adult ballet. Um, you can't rely on external factors uh, to motivate your journey. You can't rely on your teacher giving you compliments all the time or your friend doing this. It has to be from you. It has to come from you. The drive has to come from you, and that's really the best motivation. Um, Another thing is that sort of comes with that is to not compare yourself with anyone. Online or in person. Even if you started ballet at the same time as someone, you should never compare yourself to them because we bring our unique experiences into our journeys, and there is no comparison. Absolutely no comparison. Because even if you started at the same time as someone, you might have needed to take a break at some point. Maybe you moved cities, or maybe you had a child. That happens a lot actually in our ballet journeys, and that's actually why ballet, again, we've sort of coming back to why it's a lifestyle, because it's something that you always come back to, you know, and your ballet journey doesn't have to end anywhere. And that actually makes it sort of more special. We don't have a time frame on our ballet journeys. We don't have an expiry date. Actually, we're all past our expiry date if you think about it. But we don't have a time frame that's limiting us. So our ballet journey is a lifelong journey, and we have to think of it as so. And I've said this a few times as well across my social media. I think I really dislike when people use time as a measurement of progress in your ballet journey. While I'm very interested in knowing, like, oh, how long have you been doing ballet for? I've sort of stopped asking people that at the moment because it doesn't matter how long they've been doing it for. As long as they are interested in it and they're looking to progress, and it's their own unique experience of ballet. Because I've sort of had people coming to me and said, "You haven't learnt ballet for very long. Why are you being a coach, or why do you think you could do this?" And it's a really interesting question because I'm like, "Well, no, you're right. I haven't been doing it for that long, but it actually feels like I've been doing it for a lifetime because of how much it's taken over my life." And when you think about it as well, you can get a university degree in 3 years. Why shouldn't you be able to learn to be a ballet teacher in 3 years if you've dedicated yourself to that? So really, the time, whether it's being short or long, it doesn't matter. As long as you're passionate about what you're doing, I think that is the most important thing. And of course, like for me, I'm just, yeah, ballet technique is everything, and safe dance practices. So I'm very, very much into that because I've come to ballet with so many injuries. Um, but yeah, I think your journey is what you make of it. So the control is absolutely in your hands, as an adult ballet dancer. But yeah, one last thing I would like to say to all adult ballet dancers is to remind them that no matter where you are in your adult ballet journey, it could be your first class, but creating art in dance is not limited to the professionals. You can create art at any stage of your ballet journey. So from your very first plie or tendu, you can create art. So don't think that just because you can't do fouette turns or a grand jeté that you can't dance ballet. Ballet comes in many different forms, and it's interesting because it is an art form that is sort of that's come from rules and regulations. If you think about it, ballet examinations. There's a certain way of doing things, but it's grown from that, and it's allowed us to create the most beautiful art and our own unique artistry. So I think that's what's really special about adult ballet dancers. So use that to your benefit.
Jojo, before I ask you my last question,
Mhm,
I am also curious if you have any tips for adults wanting to get on point. Because as you said,
mhm.
ballet toe shoes, point shoes are so beautiful. And I think that we're drawn to them like, a moth to a flame. And I think we're drawn to them before we're ready for them, speaking for myself. And so, any tips that you would say for aspiring point shoe wearers out
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, one of the biggest questions I get asked. Um, it sort of ties into the last one. Learn to work with what you have. You need to build great body awareness before going on point. When I started my point journey, I felt like I was starting ballet all over again. It was hard because things are different on point. It's like you're learning it all over again. So it's like a journey within a journey in itself. And point shoes are super and amazingly rewarding, but also quite dangerous. So you have to be very careful. You have to know that you are strong enough. Now, ballet is a combination of flexibility and strength. So I know lots of people they do their calf rises and they do a couple of strength exercises, every week and work their way onto point. Maybe in 1 or 2 years they can get there. But it's not just the strength, it's the flexibility, like I said as well, because you really need to have a straight line when you're pointing your toe from your shin all the way to your toe, basically. If you don't have that straight line, you're going to end up with claw feet. So now flexibility is harder to build than strength, in my opinion, because it does depend on your body. However, it is not impossible. It just takes time. So for me, it's all about understanding your body. I always think if any adult ballet dancer wants to do point, no matter where they are in their journey, go and talk to your ballet teacher. This is why it's important to have a ballet teacher that you trust and that you know is going to support you no matter what. And talk to your ballet teacher because they'll be able to look at your feet and say, okay, look, your strength is pretty good. The flexibility we need to work on. Let's do this, this, and this. And we're going to stretch out that ankle so that you'll be able to get over the box properly on your point shoes. Um, Everyone's journey is unique, so you really need to speak to someone who knows your feet and knows your body and knows how you move. Um, and that being said, it's not just a foot thing or an ankle thing for point, because what you might notice is when people go up on point, like say they're just in second position on point, if their turnout is not strong enough, their hips will start turning in. And that actually happens with a lot of beginners on point. It happened with me, and it made me realize, wow, my turnout is not as strong as I thought it was. So it point work involves your entire body. You need to have a strong core. You need to have very strong turnout muscles. Your VMOs need to be working all the time to protect your knees. Your ankles need to be strong and flexible, as well as your feet as well. So you really need to get all the intrinsic muscles of your feet moving and understanding where they need to be, basically. Um, so look, point is, like I said, an amazingly rewarding journey. I do always want to be honest with adult ballet dancers though, because it's not an easy journey. It's not a cheap journey either. It is it is a big financial commitment because if you want to do point and you're just doing one class a week, that's fine. That's great. But it's just going to take longer to get there. So you really need to commit, your lifestyle to it, really. If an adult ballet dancer wants to get on point within, let's say 1 to 3 years, it's not just ballet classes. You need to be doing other work, strength, flexibility, and do lots of different bar classes, do lots of different choreography classes, because that's how you're going to really learn, and that's how you're going to improve your ballet technique as well as strengthen your muscles for point work. And with anyone that wants to do point, I believe that consistency is really important. You can't just do 4 ballet classes in a week and then not do ballet for a month and then come back and think that you're going to be, everything's going to be the same, because it's not. Ballet is a consistent thing that generally, well, if you want to progress, I guess it needs to be a consistent thing in your life.
And I feel like I saw a video of yours a while back of setting up a home studio. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'll link to that, listeners, because that's helpful too, to know what do you need?
Yeah, no, I love that you mentioned that. That was actually I think that was my very first YouTube video, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because I set up my own home studio because of the pandemic. I was dancing at home and I just realized my kitchen counter wasn't going to cut it anymore. I needed to get a bar. But yeah, it's a great way having that space at home to practice, and it allows you to progress. And like I said, it's kind of a special place for me to dance at home.
My last question for you, Jojo, is the name of the podcast is Tranquility du Jour. So I'm curious, how do you find tranquility in your everyday? I think I know the answer, but
Yeah.
I still will ask.
I love that. Well, obviously, ballet, I guess. I do believe that life is all about balance. Ballet is something that has taken over a lot of my life, but I've sort of let it do that, and I find balance in it in so many ways, and I think as well in terms of tranquility, such a beautiful word, isn't it? I think you need to take care of yourself. And you need to do what's right for you and what makes you happy, whatever that is. If it's ballet, excellent. If it's something else, great. But take care of yourself, and life is about balance. So find things that you enjoy doing in order to keep yourself balanced.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jojo, for being with us and for all the beautiful pink, fabulous work you're putting out into the world.
Oh, thank you, Kimberly. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you so much for having me.
So you can find Jojo at jojo.ballerina, at Adult Ballet Collective, and at Adult Ballet Club on Instagram. I have links, of course, to all of those in the show notes. And of course, let's connect. Let's stay connected. And if we haven't connected, let's do so. So sign up to receive inbox love through Love Notes. And these are things that I used to send out weekly. Right now I'm doing kind of, well, I definitely would not say weekly. They are more like monthly at this point. So we'll see. It's kind of ebbed and flowed, and we'll see if I get back to monthly. But either way, in the interim, or get back to weekly. In the interim, I just want you to know that these are happening, and I'll be getting one out in the next week or two, and would love to have you on list. It's kind of like an insider's list, and let you know what's going on and when new videos are released, things along those lines, events coming up, etc. Also, I have 6 books and a planner, so there's a link to browse those. A link to follow Tranquility du Jour on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And then, of course, a link to shop TDJ by Kimberly, which is my locally sewn, eco-friendly, seasonless, beautiful collection of just basics, but that mix and match and can be dressed up and down and all that great stuff. All right. So that's it for this week. And I hope you have enjoyed the episode. And thank you for inviting me and Jojo into your day. Have a great week.